Welcome to the Social Impact Level Up podcast. This is where we blur the lines between business, nonprofit, and impact. I'm your host, Wendie V, and in season 3, we're redefining success for social entrepreneurs looking to grow their revenue. If you have reality-changing ideas, this is the place for you. Let's jump right into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Social Impact Level Up podcast. What do you get when you need to start a new business and you don't exactly know how to do it? Who do you turn to? And who do you turn to if that business is in cannabis? This is a tricky question, and it's something that I know I can answer because I have my partner, Ashley Wynn-Grimes, here to help me with this question. So Ashley, besides this and getting into holistic business, I know we want to talk a little bit about you and cannabis nursing. So let's hop right into today's conversation and tell people, who are you and how do you make an impact?
Yeah, so my name's Ashley Wynn-Grimes. I've been a nurse for 16 years. Next year, it'll be 17 years. Can you believe it? It's like bananas. And I started off in traditional nursing just like everybody else does. So, we walk in, give people medicine, and then you walk out and you might do some assessments, stethoscope, the whole thing. And then I got my master's degree in nursing education. And that's when I started climbing the leadership ladder in healthcare. So my favorite job was a transition to practice program where I got to onboard new grad nurses in their first year. So it was my job to literally sit with new grad baby nurses for an entire year right after they graduate and make sure they weren't being bullied, make sure they understood skills, they were navigating hospital life, navigating work-life balance. That was my job. Best time ever besides the commute. And then I ended up in corporate shortly after, a few other jobs in between, but I went to corporate working for 14 hospital system, doing performance improvement and project management, like multi-million-dollar projects and such. And that wasn't a lot of fun for me because the focus was always about money. It wasn't really about actual patient impact. And so in that stage, I had burned through my career. I had climbed the ladder. I'd gone through all these things and I found myself being burnt out. And so that's when I started to uncover holistic modalities like yoga, and cannabis came up for me really around understanding the endocannabinoid system. And so for me, that's when I spiraled into how do I care for my wellness? I was burnt out. I had just recently dealt with a cyber theft. $15,000 was stolen out of my bank account, all while I'm saving a hospital $1.4 million at the same time. How is that a thing? And so over the past 7 years, I have really expanded my understanding of what holistic healing and wellness could be, primarily through my own journey of understanding and uncovering that, and also helping other people to do the same. And so I started off with educating patients on how to leverage cannabis in a therapeutic sense, not I just want to smoke to get high sense. I remember one of the first people that I had talked to, she's allergic to lemon. And she came to me and she was like, for some reason, when I smoke this strain or that strain, I cough. And I'm like, well, does it have this particular ingredient or in it? And she's like, oh, I don't know. How would I know? And I'm like, well, you get it tested and all those things. And come to find out, she was very sensitive to an ingredient in the cannabis. And so that's kind of where it started. Where we landed with all of this is, I do have a virtual course, cannabis education for healthcare providers like bud tenders and things like that, or just for people who want to better navigate their relationship with cannabis. I also host community with people who are looking to enter into the cannabis space. Recently, our nursing association has acknowledged cannabis nursing as a specialty, which is great progress in that regard. And I'm also a Reiki practitioner. I also do consultations with other healthcare businesses and, just a lot of other things. I've written books and things along those lines. It's just been ever a evolving story of how can I support healing? How can I support wellness? And how can I create impact through the work that I do and be of service to the people that I serve?
Yeah, and it's so interesting in your story. I always hear things like, working in a big system and things just not being energetically aligned with who I am or how I want to work or what I want to do with my life. And I think it's always fascinating to hear you reflect because I hear so much of myself, which is why we originally had started talking. And so kind of thinking about holistic business and where we ended up together, it's been about a year since we met. And we originally, I know, it's like celebrate, yay!
Yeah.
I had an serious adult woman to woman friendship for an entire year, and it got even more serious as the year went on. It's like, you guys, it's like crazy, crazy. Ashley jokes that I'm her like other husband. So
Yeah.
which is actually super true. But your husband and I probably need to go to dinner.
Yeah.
We need to have some conversation. Anyway, so we originally met around this concept of holistic healing, business, and how do you, as somebody who's on a healing journey, kind of come through to the next phases or continue to keep going. And in that, I think we both have come on an interesting journey creating a new brand called Elevate Her Worth, which is rooted in that concept of a lot of women are on some sort of healing path, have done, not only yoga and retreats and things like that and meditation and all these other things, but are using more advanced healing methods, even like you mentioned, Reiki. There's all kinds of different healing modalities. So for folks who are rooted in business, that healing culture is completely different. It's like night and day. And even you and I get in these conversations where we're coming at it from both different ways, going, wait, what about this? What about that? So can you talk a little bit more about that, like yin and yang, or the balance of holistic healing and business and how those things kind of come together for you in your head? Have you been looking all over the internet for templates that actually apply to social impact organizations? Check out learngrowthrive.wendyvelos.com for resources, courses, templates, and more. This is your one-stop shop for DIYer social entrepreneurs growing work that matters. Again, that's learngrowthrive.wendyvelos.com, where you can find solutions made just for you.
For me, in my relationship with you, and this is also true in my relationship with my husband, he's very opposite of me, which is very frustrating to some degree, because it's just literally like I look at you and you're a mirror reflection of everything that I am. So you're still me, right? But it's just when you speak is something very different, and it's like, oh, okay. And this has been part of my personal healing work, like shadow work, or like uncovering the things that I'm uncomfortable with. And the same has been true for my husband. And then I kind of heard you reflect a little bit on that on your end as well. But I think there's a beauty to being able to be intentional about bringing both perspectives together, because it creates a whole. Like, yeah, I'm a whole entrepreneur without you, and so are you without me. But when we bring it together, it's that much bigger. One of the things that I appreciate about the yin and yang relationship, especially the way that we kind of do it, is you come, I feed, you create, I make bigger, and then you feed, and it just keeps bouncing back and forth. It just keeps bouncing back and forth. And to me, that's so interesting. It's so intriguing, and I think it's something that a lot of women miss, because we once we hit like difference of opinion, once we hit something that we don't necessarily agree with, we want to kind of throw in the towel. But I feel like that resistance means something. And similar to the yin and yang, there is no real delineation of difference between the white and the black and the full circle. It just is yin and yang. It is a full whole entity. And so within that, within the dark is the light, and within the light there is the dark. And so in many ways, we see each other in each other, which is usually why it's rubbing up against the resistance. And if you lean into it, then you start to see, oh, okay, like Ash, you really need to think about something here right now. Or, oh, okay, like this is right. Or, oh, okay, here's the validation you needed right now. And in the most mysterious ways. I think that the universe has created differences on purpose. There's male energy and female energy on purpose. There's air energy and earth energy on purpose. And so, like, how can we as humans create more intentionally and manifest bigger than what you could manifest on your own? I don't think I answered your question directly,
I,
but it felt right to say.
now I don't even remember my question. I was like, yeah, all that. Um, So, but the funny part is, I think in our relationship, I come across as the more analytical type A. And in some cases, that is the role I play. Now, I've also dated an engineer, and I realized how disorganized as a person I am. And I was like, whoa, oh my God, there's people who are even more type A than me. I'm like, what are these people doing with their lives? I feel like, oh my God. And they're like, oh, they're all in the engineering field. That's what they're doing with their lives. It's crazy. Um, so, in every relationship, you have the opportunity to, like you said, ebb and flow and be sort of masculine, feminine. I always hear these things about, people wanting women to be more feminine. And it's like that feminine energy is not the energy that has driven business for a long time. So when you come to the business space with inherently feminine energy and you're in a male dominated physical room, like it can even be daunting. And so as we created Elevate Her Worth, one of the purpose, I guess, and goals of the space is to allow people to come as they are with whatever energy they have, but recognizing that it's a place for you to be a whole person, a whole entrepreneur, a whole being, whole someone on a journey that doesn't even know what they're doing that day. Whatever it is. And I think that was the part that in the two events that we've done. So to catch people up, if you don't know what this is, Elevate Her Worth is a brand that Ashley and I created that's based on healing events and business development events. And for the two events that we've done so far, we've had, a dozen and then like 24 women coming together to go with us in a half day sort of little mini journey. It's like not a long journey, just a little short journey to, dig into the space of self, the space of business, the space of community, and to then come out with whatever transformation you take away. Right. So not
Yes.
no prescripted outcome really.
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit more, like, and reflect a little bit more about these events that we've been doing and what that's meant for you.
Well, it's been quite interesting because you're right. There is a very different like business just runs different than the holistic like spiritual mindset, right? Or the feminine kind of energy. And primarily because business was built to support a patriarchy, right? And so everything that comes out of the patriarchy directly supports it. So anything else generally is opposing to it. So there is a different level of communication that I've had to kind of pick up for people who do decide to attend Elevate Her Worth. I also find a little bit of resistance because it's not like common ideologies. For example, I deal a lot in the cannabis space, and some of the things I talk about in relation to cannabis, the world just isn't necessarily ready for. When I bring up the endocannabinoid system and the largest neuroreceptor system in the body, it's like, but it's cannabis though, because didn't y'all say it's gonna, make my mind turn into an egg, right? Um, and so that's
Not you with the dare reference. No. Nancy Reagan over here. Oh my
right.
goodness.
Don't do drugs, everyone. Okay. Meanwhile, we are
Everybody I know has done drugs, but never mind.
okay. And some of those drugs are literally killing people. Opioids, literally. Literally, we have a whole society of people who are on opioids and cannot get off of them that have been prescribed by healthcare professionals, but you're still addicted. And it's still causing GI disruption. It's still causing you to continue to have pain. It's not even serving you in the way that you wish that it would. Your quality of life has decreased. And so when I come waltzing on the scene saying something like, well, maybe you should use a transdermal patch instead of, this or that, it's wildly different. And then a lot of the work that I do does rely on intuition. It's very, very intuitive. And a lot of people, and the sad part is even women are scared of their own intuition. And so, when I come on the block saying lean into your intuition, there's a fear response that comes up that's very unique to the people that we serve in this industry, because generally they're women entrepreneurs who are so used to that patriarchal perspective where it's like, whoa, 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 this yang is really yanging over here. Like, what's going on?
And I think the idea of business being driven, a lot like by the patriarchy and, historically, you want businesses to be transferred down to families and building wealth and building legacy. But that's not something that a lot of minority populations were really taught always, like sometimes, but not always. And so, at least for me, coming into entrepreneurship, understanding how or why those things are built that way, it's automatically not in alignment with my perspective sometimes. And I'm like, but why? Like, it's just the way it is. I'm like, no, but why? Like, why are we doing this way? There's definitely some like business networking events and things that run in specific prescriptive ways. And that's the way they were created, to run that way and be efficient. But it doesn't always allow people to have these genuine, long-lasting connections necessarily. It works off of repetition. And, the more you hear the person's 30-second pitch, the more you get acquainted with them and somehow are going to be referring them business. But what we're trying to do with Elevate Her Worth and a different type of space is like, listen to the actual person, what they're saying, and then connect with them on the spot and co-create with them. Because when you co-create together, you're much more bonded than having a 30-second pitch thrown at you 10 weeks in a row.
Absolutely. And this entrepreneurial journey is difficult, and to your point, a lot of us have not been indoctrinated into the systems that are required to build a business. And so because of that, this is our first rodeo, right? Like we don't get the wisdom that comes along. It's not passed down to us. We're learning it in real time. And so for that reason, we're in a long game here. And that long game does require us to have people that we can connect with and learn from and grow from and be vulnerable with, because it's not easy. It's not all bells and whistles the entire time. I think I told you this once, Wendie. I remember very early on when somebody was like, I was crying ugly tears, like, and she was like, I can't believe I'm crying ugly tears. And I was like, shoot, I be crying ugly tears. It seemed like every day, because this ain't working. And so for me, the realization that, it's not just me who's being very sensitive as a woman or being too vulnerable or not taking the right steps. No, this is just part of the process. We need to make hard decisions. We need to say no more frequently. We need to build frameworks, and we need to get to the point of conversion, period. But how do we do that authentically? How do we get to the point of conversion where we're not selling our soul in the process, figuratively? You see what I'm saying? Like, are we selling things that we actually want to sell? I was telling somebody recently, I once signed up to sell bathtubs. That didn't last long.
No, because I don't even know what to tell you. Like,
why you ain't got a bathtub already?
No, I mean, like, what is the benefit here? Like, it's not a lot of scrubbing, y'all. It'll be a self-cleaning bathtub. Don't worry, your back's good. Right. Okay, so take it back from bathtubs. The thing that I think is interesting, and I was thinking about the outcomes of our events that we've had, people saying, well, I'm ugly crying, going from here, right? Ugly crying, feeling lonely, to I didn't even know I needed this. Like, this is a space that I didn't know it needed to exist. I didn't know it existed. Now that I'm here, I know it needs to exist. But also, I just didn't realize that I needed to plug in to support in this way. And I heard that really loud and clear with Hollow Tea. So tell people a little bit about our events. So the first event we had was a smaller retreat, which you and I hosted a majority of the conversations, and we had food and da-da-da-da. There was no theme, but somewhere along the lines, I decided we needed a theme. And we decided to hold the second event a little bit bigger, both this year and 2024. And the second event having a Halloween-themed high tea theme, and had like doubled the number of people who came. But what I heard the difference, I think the first retreat was very introspective about me and my business and healing me through the activities that we're doing today in order to show up for my business. And what I heard in the second, not retreat, but in Hello Tea was I was feeling some sort of way about business or about myself. And then I came into this room and got reinvigorated and re-inspired and understand now that I do need to be more authentically me and showing up for my business and also have support to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think part of the reason why we got a slightly different response was because on the first one you mentioned it, you and I were facilitating a conversation, and I think the illusion was that we know everything, which ain't true. Um, but I think the second time we kind of spread our voice out, expanded our voice through other people. We had speakers this time who also could show up authentically themselves in a room. And I think it was very clear to the people in the room and in the audience that it's not just Wendie and Ashley that got it together, even though we don't have the time, because we might as well be sitting in the corner ugly crying sometimes. But there are other people who also come authentically them and share their stories. And I think that having that like gritty, like down and dirty perspective that isn't really sugar coated and we're all perfect, we're all doing everything, we're multi-million-dollar whatevers. I think, that authenticity shined through where it was like, oh no, I really see myself in this person. No, I'm really struggling with this particular thing, because we're never always going to resonate with everybody where they are. And so where I am today in my business, where you are today in your business, may not resonate with everybody, but where somebody is, in their journey to uncovering their human design, or where this person is as far as showing themselves on video, or, like all of those different aspects of what business is, it just shined very clearly for people, because I did struggle with video at some point in my journey. It's just not where I am today. So I wouldn't come to the anything and talk to you about that, because that's not something that needs solving for me right now. I would come to you a little bit with something that's more relevant to me in my current moment. So I think that's why we got a slightly different response. And I think that the more that we continue to expand and be inclusive of people's perspectives, I think the more that we're going to see like that alignment and that resonating. And my hope is that people walk away finding their own business bestie, and to connect with an accountability partner, and maybe pick up a new holistic modality like tapping or dancing or, whatever, to just make this journey just a little bit more bearable.
Yeah, there's so many things that I thought were really cool about adding in the other voices. Besides the speakers, we had vendors who were there for the high tea portion, and they just offered a different perspective in showing their own art and their own talents and what they bring. And each of them had like handmade things. So, they weren't necessarily selling just like manufactured things you get anywhere, but things that really did take a lot of effort. And I think the other thing that came through was the holistic healing part in the retreat that you and I did, that was done through wrapping crystals, and you led that. In Hollow Tea, we did that through a movement session with Dr. Udam. And it was really neat to see how what I took away from it was no matter what healing modality we bring to these events, it's encouraged and welcomed by the participants. And also people are able to struggle through that, like, this is making me pause and uncomfortable in my day.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like sometimes like we're because we say movement, do it mean that we gotta dance? Does it mean that? Because I mean, we could just move our fingers and accomplish the goal, right? And so like that type of like resistance shows up in our business so often, where we're asked to do something. You ever have a client come to you and they ask you to do something that ain't on the menu? It's not on the menu, but you like, okay, well, let me figure it out. Because that's what entrepreneurship is. You solve problems. If you come to me with a problem and you think I can solve it, well, it must mean that I probably can. Let me figure it out. right? And so, and those moments are so uncomfortable. And I think, but those are also some of the most rewarding experiences that I have. Those are also some of the most, like, I learn the most from those experiences, and usually the most lucrative, especially the first time. The second, third, and fourth, maybe not, but the first time usually works out very well.
You're so funny. I think I have one of those on the horizon now that you mention it. So I know we have about 5 or 6 more minutes that we're going to be talking. So I wanted to get through this kind of discussion of Hallow Tea and reflecting on our events and things. So for folks who are not familiar with Elevate Her Worth and all of the other lives and content that we've done, we have developed an Instagram, we have a website, we've got events that we're putting on. And all of this is around holistic business and healing for women, creating community, connecting to yourself, finding clarity, clearing your blockages. And her in that is holistic energy reset. And funny enough, was it yesterday or the other day, you posted the words holistic energy reset and like forgot about her acronym, which I thought was hilarious. And I was like, I have embedded it so deep into your psyche that you're now thinking it's you thinking it. That's like some kind of weird inception thing that I've done to you.
Dude, well, actually, I was actually posting energy reset, and then I went back when people started, like, when you liked it. In fact, when you liked it, I went back. I was like, no, holistic energy reset. Like, why not? Like, that's what we need right now, because we developed that for a reason, and it means something. And I feel like now more than ever, I think it means more to people, even outside of the brand, just to feel like you're considered a whole person, and you think about the energy, and there's a time for us to reset. Like, to have that concept come together for people, I think, like, we're just in need.
And I think the Elevate events have been the holistic energy reset in that people have had to take 4 or 5 hours away from their day to just be present. And people have also given us feedback about that, saying that was good because I very rarely do this. I'm always running from here to there, being mom, being business owner, being all these things, but I'm not being somewhere for myself. So making myself go through this day and focusing not only on myself and on my business, but also focusing just on being present in the room has given me like a pause that I didn't know I needed. Like, that's the idea.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
all need that.
Yes, we do. And please do. Because, part of the other problem, we've talked a lot about this on our lives, is, like, just because you don't have a job and you decide to be an entrepreneur, you don't recreate a job for yourself. You don't have to work 9 to 5. You don't have, like, is not, like, that's not the way that you make money. It's about, what are you solving? What is the solution? What is the thing that you're creating? And if it takes you 10 minutes to come up with the solution, it just took you 10 minutes to come up with the solution. Nobody else needs to know that.
And then you to sell you a little 10-minute solution.
Okay.
On Instagram, the Instagram takes you an hour.
Right.
That one video takes you an hour. You're like, damn, that's a 10-minute
Right.
solution. I got to market it for an hour.
Right.
Anyway, so looking forward, I think we're interested in having folks connect with us for Elevate Her Worth. We're interested in people going to the website, elevateherworth.com. You'll be able to get the Balanced Business Guide, which will also be linked in the show notes. And our Balanced Business Guide is something that we put together to help people do the holistic energy reset thing on their own, essentially, over the course of just a quick video, some email tips, walking you through, how can you boost your revenue and, really by boosting your mindset, essentially. So that's what the Balanced Business Guide is. You can grab that if you want to connect with us. You can follow us on Instagram, and then you can plan to come to one of our events. We have a wait list up all the time on our when we're not having an event on our website. You can get the wait list. So anything else, Ashley, you want people to check out as we're kind of wrapping up in the last minute?
No, not necessarily check out. I mean, you can follow me on Instagram if you want. You're a cannabis nurse, but I'd rather you much follow Elevate Her Worth, just so you can be part of the events. If you want to know more about cannabis education, I'm here for that too. But I think generally speaking, I did want to just mention one thing that I took away from our last event. I remembered my human design. I forgot, and because it had become such a intentional thing in the beginning, that like certain things that I had decided that we're just going to do, and I hadn't really thought about it in a while. But while we were there, I was like, oh, yeah, you are a projector. Oh, yeah, you are a 3-5. Oh, yeah, friendship is your thing. Right. And so, yeah. So that was probably one of the biggest things that I walked away with. And even though I already know my human design, but that reminder was important because it solidified and validated certain things that was happening. And especially like, again, the yin and yang just kind of came back up for me again. Like you do serve a purpose and here you are.
That's so interesting because I like never forget that I'm a generator because I'm like constantly like doing things. You would be surprised. I'm actually the 6'2" hermit, which yeah, and like with how extroverted I'm like the extrovert of all the extroverts. It's really interesting that that's my normal propensity is actually to be like in my little cave, which is exactly like at home in my little cave.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
So,
cool.
anyways, that's us nerding out at the end of this podcast on human design. But either way, it's been fun to have my partner in crime, Ashley Wynn-Grimes, here on the podcast. Stay tuned for another episode, which should be dropping very soon. And go follow us on Elevate Her Worth. We're all over the place. If you just drop us into Google, you'll find us. And, maybe there'll be merchandise and more events and all kinds of things coming in 2025. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining us for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and we look forward to having you come back. If you're curious about something we shared, make sure you check in the show notes below. And do you want the secret to make your nonprofit or business more sustainable and more profitable? Hop into my Learn, Grow, Thrive University, where I give you exclusive access to resources, mini courses, and templates for free. All you need to do is sign up at wendyvelos.com/university. See you next episode.